A nobleman once questioned him on his plebeian roots. For what right did he have to command armies? "My nobility," he retorted, "begins in me, but yours ends in you." The man behind that absolute zinger of a penis joke was Iphicrates, one of the most renowned mercenary captains of his time and amongst the most innovative tacticians of his age. And to illustrate that point today, we're going to look at the Battle of Lechaeum, a crippling defeat for the famously warlike Spartans. But before we get into that, let's take a look at the context in which this battle happened. So in 404 BCE, the Peloponnesian War was finished. Athens is defeated and Sparta is the hegemon of the Greek world. However, they were an extremely unpopular ruler, and for very good reason. For a start, Sparta kept all the spoils of the Peloponnesian War. If you know anything about ancient warfare, you know it was all about the spoils. You had to share them out, otherwise people are going to get really mad and no one is going to fight for you. Secondly, they attacked their own ally, the city of Elis. And it makes you wonder, I'm sure, if you're a Greek city-state, why am I in a defensive league with Sparta if the person I'm worried about attacking me is Sparta? It makes no sense and is not a good way to endear your allies to you. And finally, Sparta has had trouble organizing their Peloponnesian League. They failed to organize an attack on Ionia in 398, and this league is just not working out for any of the allies or Sparta. With that in mind, it's probably no surprise that when Sparta's allies are offered 10,000 gold darics to betray them by a Persian satrap named Pharnabazus, fantastic name by the way, they jump at the opportunity. Yes, please, I will take your gold and betray my ally because they suck. Long story short, Sparta now finds itself at war with Corinth, Athens, Thebes, and Persia. Spoiler alert, that is not a good situation to be in. Around the year 394, Corinth is divided between pro- and anti-Spartan factions. The anti-Spartan allies control Corinth, and the Spartans and their allies control the port of Lechaeum. So you end up in this really weird situation of two armies behind walls, very close to each other, locked in this stalemate. Now, whilst this is going on, a unit of Spartan infantry in the port of Lechaeum has to go home for a religious festival. The Spartans are, of course, famously conservative, famously pious. You can't skip out on a festival just because you're at war. The traditions must be obeyed. These guys had to go home. So the Spartan king, Agesilaus II, who is also in the port of Lechaeum with them, he comes up with a plan to escort the infantry with cavalry and hoplites as far as the next town over, at which point the hoplites would return home and the cavalry would continue to escort the holidaymakers back home. They had assumed that the Corinthians would be too soft to come out and attack them, and they didn't really see it as much of a danger. However, little did they know that our man Iphicrates is the commander of the Corinthian peltasts, and he sees this as an absolutely perfect opportunity to strike. In many ways, it's sort of like the Christmas truce of World War I, except rather than both sides coming together to respect the celebration and their mutual humanity, la-di-da, the Corinthians see this as a perfect opportunity to massacre their enemy, and I can't blame them. As the Spartan infantry are returning to Lechaeum completely unescorted, the Corinthians line up for battle, and unusually the peltasts are placed in front of the hoplites. This is not the traditional way to fight a Greek battle. As the Spartans come within range, the peltasts open fire, catching them totally off guard, but these are Spartans. They're experienced soldiers. They've been training since childhood for this moment. They quickly draw up battle lines. The Spartan commander orders his first line of hoplites to charge the peltasts. However, hoplites are heavy, they're very heavily armored, and they are extremely slow. On top of that, you can't charge in formation. The strength of the phalanx is staying in formation. If you're sprinting around the battlefield, you can't maintain that. As the hoplites attack, their men get picked off one by one, forcing them to retreat after taking heavy casualties. Seeing this, the Spartan commander orders his most experienced troops to charge the peltasts. But experience has nothing to do with it. This is terrible tactics. As the experienced hoplites charge, their formation breaks up, the peltasts retreat, and are able to pick them off again. This is turning into an absolute bloodbath. By the time news of the battle reaches the Spartan cavalry, Spartan dead are littering the battlefield. As the cavalry return and charge the peltasts, they retreat behind the Athenian and Corinthian hoplites under the command of Callias. If you've played Rome Total War, you know a cavalry charge against a hoplite, it's going to be a disaster, and it was. The cavalry attack is easily repulsed by the phalanx, and as they retreat, these cheeky peltasts return again to pick off the retreating cavalry. This is turning into an absolute whitewash. The cavalry charge did give the Spartan infantry a small respite though, and they are able to regroup on a hill close to the battlefield. Meanwhile, the garrison at Lechaeum, they're watching their comrades get cut down, and they sail out of the port around the hill, hoping to be able to pick up and save their army. The Spartans retreat back to the boats, many drown in their heavy armor, and many are again struck down by the constant bombardment of Iphicrates and his bloody peltasts. Some troops also make it back to the port under the protection of the cavalry, but the day has been an absolute disaster for Sparta. Of the 600 Spartans that started the battle, 250 lay dead on the battlefield, with the Corinthian and Athenian casualties being almost non-existent. Now, this result may seem obvious to us, that was obviously going to happen. Of course, peltasts can pick off unaccompanied infantry, but this was the first time a phalanx had been defeated by peltasts, and it really gave Iphicrates a fearsome reputation. He'd go on to fight and defeat Sparta in numerous battles in the Corinthian War, and serve as a mercenary commander for Egypt, Thrace, across Anatolia. He really did become a revolutionary commander. Not bad going for a shoemaker, if you ask me. So as you've probably been able to tell by now, I am not Archaea Historia. My name's Stefan Milo. I've got my own little history channel, and I'm going to be making a video on the Spartan secret police to accompany this. So go and check out my channel. Subscribe to Archaea Historia, of course, probably on the screen by now. You can see another one of his videos. They're brilliant. Click on it and subscribe to the channel and check out my channel. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. This is the end of the video. See you guys.